Welcome, high school sports fans, to another episode of Linglestown Gazette's Gazette Sports Chat, brought to you by Ted's Bar and Grill. I'm your host, Joe Gilloway, and I thank you for giving us a look. Also like to thank Jeff and Pam Smith. They're the proprietors of tonight's studio, which is St. Thomas Roasters. Jeff's been nice enough to allow us to use his restaurant a couple times now, and we're filling up about a third of the dining room here. So, Jeff, thank you for that. We last used St. Thomas Roasters. Bill uses it pretty much regularly, Bill Bostic, but we had our Lady Rams Hoops Weekly final show here, and it really went well. We filled the whole place up. So, Jeff, thank you very much. Tonight's guest will be recently hired Central Dauphin boys basketball coach, Mr. Wayne Fletcher. He's to my right here. Coach Fletcher, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
We really appreciate it. This is sort of in our wheelhouse. This is very much in our wheelhouse. As soon as I knew that you were hired, yep, I said, we got to get this guy and introduce him to the community. You can only do so much on your own. We're going to help introduce you to the community.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate it too. And Coach Fletcher's the first new head basketball coach in 10 years. 10 years is a long time.
It is.
To have one coach in any sport.
Right.
So that makes it even more of a big deal. But there's just a lot of buzz right now in the Central Dauphin community, in the Lower Paxton, West Hanover community about just a new outlook and a new attitude, hopefully, for the boys basketball team. So are you getting settled in?
I'm working on it. There's a lot of moving parts. But just trying to, really for me, it's just getting in the gym, trying to get a look at what's out there, try to establish expectations of how we're going to move forward, while also taking care of administrative stuff, hiring the coaching staff, and making sure the students, as they are progressing through the end of the semester, that they're taking care of their schoolwork and things like that.
Right.
Because obviously you need to be eligible to play.
Right.
And, the way we look at our program, it's just an extension of overall learning. And so the classroom is very important. And then we can teach what we teach basketball-wise in the gym.
They're student athletes.
Exactly.
People forget that. They just think they're basketball players or lacrosse players, and before that, they're a student. So right. It's important that the student and the athlete are both addressed.
Exactly.
Have you had an opportunity to meet some of your future players?
Yeah,
I'm not asking you to select your team already, but you probably have an idea of some of the guys, right?
We do, but you mentioned earlier about the buzz and the excitement, and so even in open gym, there's a lot of kids that show up to open gym. A lot of them hadn't played in last year or the year before, and so sifting through that, getting a look at everybody who's available is important, but it can be overwhelming.
Right.
Because while we have some time before we need to pick a team, there are summer leagues that we want to play in, and we don't want to have 20 kids at a summer league game. So it's a delicate balance of trying to get a look at everybody while also trying to pinpoint who at least we're going to go with this summer by way of summer league.
Right.
And moving forward.
Right. You got to give everybody a chance, but typically there's a pretty good idea of who the core is going to be, right?
Yes.
Right.
And the thing about this year coming up that is really going to be difficult is that the junior-senior class, the rising junior-senior class, is very heavy with numbers, with players.
Right.
And so that's one of those things that we have to be mindful of, and making sure we get a good look at that group especially, to make sure that when the numbers shake out, that we make the best decisions for the program overall.
Yep. Okay. Let's go back to the beginning.
Okay.
Harlem, New York.
That's right.
I know you were born there. Were you raised there?
I was born and raised in Harlem, St. Nicholas Projects, if you're familiar with the Apollo.
I was just there last summer.
Well, then guess what? If you walk a couple blocks up 8th Avenue or 7th, the housing projects that I grew up in was right up the street pretty much from the Apollo.
So many legends were born and raised in St. Nick's projects.
That's right.
Athletes, musicians, politicians.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. And so it was, but it was the 80s. And in the 80s, it was a pretty challenging time. I compare it to kind of like some parts of Chicago now, where there was a lot of death, a lot of challenge, a lot of chaos. That is kind of what I grew up in. And basketball was one of those things that really gave me hope.
Right.
It gave me an ability to believe that I could transcend the environment that I was in.
Now, this may be a dumb question, but have you ever played at Rucker Park?
Of course.
Okay, I do.
Yeah, now, I got to be honest. My game, the way I played, I was an athletic, defensive player.
Right.
Could put the ball in the basket with the best of them, but I played with guys that wound up playing in the NBA.
Right.
So my skill level wasn't that high.
Where they weren't sitting up on the roller skating rink watching?
Yeah.
Right?
No,
I know all about Rucker Park. So there was a roller skating rink.
Yeah, no doubt. And there's a housing project across the street. And so when they really packed, the park, I mean, there are people on top of the buildings.
Hanging out of trees.
Everything.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't like that when I played.
Yeah.
I got to play there once or twice. Not as big of a deal as to when some of my peers played or, some of the other legends back in New York City.
Right.
So
how did you get to Clarion? Was where you did your undergrad, right?
Yes. Yep.
Clarion University from Harlem, New York.
Yeah. Interesting. Without being too long with it, Clarion was the perfect place for me because it was so anti-Harlem. Like I said, it was tough, especially towards the end of my high school life with the amount of devastation that was happening. And I wanted to go to a place that was not like that, and it was as inconvenient to get to as possible.
Right. Yeah.
And Clarion was one of those places. 13 hours on the bus. If you took a plane, you had to go to Pittsburgh and then get a ride to Clarion.
Takes a lot of discipline to force yourself into that situation.
It does. But you know what? I knew that there was a lot of world out there for me, and I wanted to be in a space where I felt comfortable being able to do that. There were a couple players that were from Brooklyn that were already there. So I knew that my transition wouldn't be difficult. If they could do it,
right,
I could. So
then you went on. I guess you still had some eligibility left, right? And you went on to get your master's at Kutztown.
Yep.
And you also were at Kutztown.
I had a year to play. I had a year of eligibility, so I played, and then I was a grad assistant. And my grad assistantship kind of started while I was still playing. We did a lot of scouting in Clarion, a lot of scouting reports, a lot of information on our opponents. We didn't do it as much at Kutztown, and so it was uncomfortable for me. And so I asked the coach, I'm like, Coach, can you get the tape? I'll break down the film and I'll start doing scouting reports. And he was like, go ahead. So during the second half, which was conference play, during the PSAC time, I started churning out scouting reports for my teammates, and we were better prepared, and we did pretty well. That year was the best that Kutztown had done in a long time. Coach wound up winning Coach of the Year. I'm not taking any credit for that, but he won Coach of the Year. We made it to the playoffs for the first time in a long time, so it was pretty fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's move on to your last high school job was with Camp Hill.
Yes.
And you had success there.
We did.
You had success there. I know that your final season, I don't know a whole lot about it, but your final season you lost in states to the eventual state champ Conwell Egan.
Yes.
And I remember watching Conwell Egan that year. They were a tough team.
They were good.
You must have got a bad draw in the brackets, right?
Well, coming out of District 3, we already know that, and this happens to us every year, if you don't come in first or second, if you get the third spot, you're going to go face District 12's number 1.
Right.
And so we know we're going to Philly. My first year, we had to go to Philly to play
Constitution?
No. They don't exist anymore. The school that we played doesn't exist. Communications Tech, I think.
Right, that might be it, yeah.
They don't exist. And so we knew that we were going to Philly, and we knew now we've done it already. And so what we preach to the players is like, listen, they're not expecting us to come and do anything. So let's give them the best shot that we can and see what happens.
Right.
It's a 3-point game at halftime.
Wow. Yeah.
So
you didn't just show up then, right?
Oh, I don't want to make that long bus trip. We had to practice for 2 weeks.
Right.
No, I want to go play. And they pulled away, but obviously if you saw Conwell Egan, they're good.
Yeah, real good.
So, but it was a great experience. It was great for those kids to see that when you put your mind to something, you can accomplish anything.
Right. Yeah.
So
how has AAU basketball helped to mold you?
I
coached last year, so I know a lot about it. I'm not coaching this year, but I have a good understanding of what AAU is all about.
Yes.
And it gets a bad rap sometimes, but there's a lot of upside to it. There's a lot of positives to it, too.
Without a doubt. I think I grew up in a time and space where AAU was king. And I think sometimes the idea of what good looks like gets lost in this area. And so AAU can be a humbling experience if you're playing in the right situation. If you're going out to challenge yourself, if you're on your school team and you're the best player, you need to go play in an environment where you're not going to be the best player.
Yeah.
And you start to learn how good your peers really are. If you think you want to play at the next level, then you go out there and these guys are steamrolling you. You need to work on your game. And I think and that's the benefit to me of AAU. It offers the ability to go out and compete at the highest level possible. If you do that, now you have some tools on what you need to work on to get better for your school.
Right.
So,
you're a teacher by profession.
yes, now I am.
What subject?
I am social studies, so I teach 6th grade social studies, and this year at the high school level I teach psychology. I also taught U.S. history, but this year those are the two. So I'm teaching 6th graders and 12th graders, which is really different.
Big difference, yeah.
But it's good. Social studies, history, the idea of understanding how this whole thing works is fascinating to me.
Right.
And I'm learning as I'm teaching.
Right.
So.
Okay, let's move on to Central Dauphin basketball.
All right,
now.
let's
We
do
touched on it a little bit when we first got started. What does a coach Wayne Fletcher high school basketball program look like once it's up and running? Okay, I know right now you're just sort of, like you said, a lot of moving parts, trying to get them in order and stuff. So the program hasn't been erected to this point.
Right.
What does a fully erected Wayne Fletcher program look like?
It looks like when you think of community and you think of what great young men look like in a community, that's how I envision our program. I envision helping to grow and develop young men that can go out there and show everybody what good looks like while also contributing in a positive way.
Right.
So service, obviously being scholarly in school, and also being able to compete on the basketball court, because they don't, they didn't bring me in to just develop community service people.
Right.
They want fully developed players that can also go out and do those other things.
So high expectations on and off the court.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
You're going to have the good fortune to work side by side with Coach Randy Gambelungi.
Yes.
And I know Coach G, and I think the world of his program.
Yeah,
I know what
amazing.
a basketball program is.
Yes.
And he's built one. He's only been back for 3 years.
Yeah.
But his players love one another. Mm-hmm. They love him. He loves them.
Yes.
And they win.
Yes.
There's a lot, like I'm going to use moving parts again. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that.
That's right.
You just don't show up in the gym and throw a couple of basketballs around, and that's built, you know?
It takes some time, and it takes a commitment on the coaching staff, but even the players too.
Yeah.
You have to get them to buy into what you're doing. And, I told Coach G, when I was at Camp Hill and we were successful, along with, if you're paying attention, the girls at Camp Hill have been on an amazing run.
Right, yep.
And when the girls and the boys are being successful at the same time, the energy in the school.
Fabulous.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I told him he's the rabbit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're going to chase him, and we're going to make it where there's a healthy competition between the boys and girls, because we want to be the reason why people are excited.
Right. I think Coach G is constantly around the clock, around the calendar, asking himself, how can I improve this?
That's right. Yes. Yes.
So you have a nice pipeline coming up, right? A lot of good 6th, 7th, 8th graders?
Yes. I helped to build some of that.
Yep, I'm sure you did, yeah.
And I've seen, I've heard a great deal about, the rising 9th and 10th graders that have already been here. Yes. So, it's just a matter of making sure that we reach all the way back and make sure that from at the school level, 7th grade on to 12th grade, that there is a cohesiveness to the entire program, while also reaching out to our travel programs and our rec programs and everything else.
You want it to be some sort of connection. You don't want it to be disconnected.
Not moving, right. Lots of moving parts.
Yeah.
Trying to keep them on some accord.
Yeah.
So that there's a connection.
In a certain sense, a 6th grader and a senior in high school are teammates. When you look at it that way, the 12th grader might go watch the 6th grader or the 8th grader play one time,
And those kids, they eat that stuff up.
They eat it up.
Yes.
When you're 12 years old and you have an 18-year-old kid and his teammates coming and sitting in a gym watching you play, that's a huge deal.
It is.
That's a huge deal.
Yeah.
And I'm going to let you plug your camp.
Okay.
The inaugural Coach Wayne Fletcher, what's it called?
Central Dauphin boys basketball.
Okay.
Camp.
What's going on with that?
So what we've done is we're going from June 25th to June 28th, Monday through Thursday, 2 half-day camps running simultaneously. All right. And so in the morning, we have rising 2nd to 5th graders. And then in the afternoon, we're going to have rising 6th to 9th graders. That way, the age and skill sets are comparable.
Right.
The older group is like the next wave that it's going to be feeding into our program, while the younger group is going to be moving into the space where they're really getting excited about basketball.
Right.
And so the content of the camps will be similar. A lot of fun, a lot of excitement for the young kids. A little bit more competition for the older kids.
Right.
But yes.
How can they sign up? Coach Wayne Fletcher.
So the school website,
okay.
Right? They have you can get the order form. We actually have it where you can register and do everything online. There's a link on the school website. You can email me if you like at coachwaynefletcher@gmail.com. You can handle registration, payment, and everything online. But if you like paper and mailing checks, you can do that too.
If you contact me or my partner Bill Bostic, we're pretty closely connected. We can get you in touch with them too.
Yep.
Okay. Next question. We have to ask you about your family.
All right.
Just tell me about your family.
All right. Well, I have 2 children, my wife and 2 children. I have a son who will be 12. He plays basketball and soccer. And I have a daughter who is 10. She plays basketball, soccer, and softball. Very busy household. My wife actually played Division I softball. So there's some sports genes in our family.
Yes, there are some sports genes.
And I think our kids are picking them up. The cool thing about our house is while it's really busy, my wife and I understand the value of what athletics can do. And so we try to teach, just like we do our players, we try to teach life lessons through sports.
Right.
And so
for some people, it's the science lab that gets them out of school and gets them going on to the next step in life. For other people, it's the basketball team.
Yeah.
You never know. For somebody else, it's playing the tuba. So,
there's always going to be something.
Right.
And so right now, it just so happens that for my children, it's sports. And
right.
It just so happened that their parents were pretty good at it too.
Good. Okay. We have a crystal ball here.
All right.
Okay?
Yes.
This is our crystal ball.
All right.
We're looking into it. That gymnasium up there, which has been sort of semi-empty over the last. What does that gymnasium look like in a year or two? Keep in mind, there's top bleachers that don't ever get folded out.
When I moved here in 2010, so 2010, 2011-ish, was Devin Thomas years.
Right.
I came to the gym when those bleachers were pulled out. And so I know that there is community support at that level if there's a reason.
Right.
My goal is to provide a reason. Can I put a time on it? Yeah, in my mind. I don't want to say it out loud.
I wouldn't ask you to, yeah.
But we've done this before. Myself, my assistant coach, Coach Miller, we feel good about the blueprint that we've developed over the years, and we know that if the players and the families and the parents are bought into what we're doing, we know that we can create success sooner than later.
Right.
So, but it's not just a Coach Fletcher thing. It's a entire team effort.
Right.
And the more we're bought in, the harder we're going to work, and the more fun we're going to have realizing the fruits of our labor.
Right. Yeah. The challenge is you're always going to get the families and friends of the players and maybe some faculty members and maybe a small student section. The goal is to get these people that might have graduated 30 years ago that haven't been to a game or just some random guy that likes basketball off the couch and down to the gym. That's how you fill up a gym.
And again, going back to being those positive stewards of the community. When these players are out there committing selfless acts and giving back, the community will also come and support them.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
we want to reach out to the alumni, the basketball alumni first, and say, hey, I mean, this is a family thing. Can you come back, talk to these guys about your experience, and create this sense of family so that whether they live locally or if they're traveling, they'll want to come and bring their family to watch
Right.
these guys compete.
Fill
That's
that
the
gym
goal.
up.
Yes.
I'll help you pull the top bleachers out.
I'll go do
Okay?
it too. Let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah, let's put some bodies in those seats.
Okay, Coach Wayne Fletcher, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
we were really looking forward to this, and really looking forward to a new face on the boys basketball program, and it's exciting. So we'll have you back again.
All right.
For
All
sure.
right.
We love Central Dauphin High School sports, so this is what we like to do. We'd like to thank the viewers. It's been a little while since we did one of these shows, and the last one was Scott and Gabby Singer. That was a few months ago. So it feels good to be back in the saddle here again. And once again, thank you to Jeff and Pam Smith for lending us their dining room here at St. Thomas Roasters. It's a local coffee shop just off of Linglestown Square. So for Bill Bostic, I'm Joe Gilloway with Linglestown Gazette Sports. Thank you.